All right, you're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get into our first big story. There was jubilation in Akeredolu's camp in Akure following the announcement of the results.
Jokeli Jadu was enveloped by excited APC supporters in the state capital.
Hundreds of Ondo residents took to the streets to celebrate the victory of the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, following INEC's declaration of Rotimi Akeredolu as the governor-elect of the state.
Now, I see this today as a precious day in my life to everybody and everybody in Ondo State, because we want free and fair election in Ondo State, and we see that we expect, and that is the why we see.
All women in the market, we all are feeling happy. This is that we don't want 6 o'clock midnight to be coming to market. We see that otherwise will be stopped for our new government. So I'm very happy today. I'm very happy.
I'm very so happy because the Ondo State already corrupt, but we know that the only Rotimi Akeredolu son is only the person can do the Ondo State to be better.
Ondolites were ecstatic and danced round the metropolis, waving the broom, the symbol of the All Progressives Congress. Most of them who spoke with TVC News expressed their delight with the conduct of the violence-free election. They added that their joy knows no bound now that their preferred candidate has been declared winner.
Now that change appears to have arrived the Sunshine State, the people of Ondo State seem to have a long list of expectations for the governor-elect.
I want him to pay salary and create job for unemployment people in Ondo State.
We want youth employment, unlike the present government that is, closing its eye to the youth.
They should be bringing lights. You should build the school and you should do everything very well.
We need lights, water. We don't need water in the television. We need it physically. And we don't need lights in the television. We don't need street lights. We need housework, we need sleep. So we are all happy.
We pray to God for our government, to attend, to listen to graduate crying. Because we were crying bitterly, we have nothing doing. But the excellency, our Rotimi Akeredolu, he has promised us a lot that is going to provide a job to us.
With the anxiety concerning who will be their next governor over, the people of Ondo State look forward to 4 years of fulfilled promises. Jokeli Jadu, TVC News, Akure.
Now that's one excited woman among so many Ondolites. No water on TV.
No water on TV.
Don't
we
give
want
us
it
all
real.
That cosmetic stuff. Oh,
it's really interesting when you hear people on the street speak and they were voicing actually what is in their minds, the way it is.
It's just amazing.
Very interesting,
well, the governor-elect has promised not to fail the people of the state that elected him. Okay.
Yeah, certainly a few minutes after he was declared the winner of the vote, Akeredolu thanked the people of the state for their support. And he said his victory was a confirmation of the willingness and readiness of the people to change and seek a better life.
Akeredolu, who later moved through the streets of Owo, also thanked security agents for their dedication to work.
The victory is not for me, nor for the APC alone. It is a victory for the people of Ondo State, irrespective of which side of the divide you stood during the election. For me, it is a sacred trust. It is a call to rescue a state and reverse its fortunes. I thank the people of Ondo State for their steadfastness. I've heard their message clearly.
All right, that's the background. We have in the studio a public affairs analyst, Gbenga Soloki. It's good to have you join us right now.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
Good morning. And we'll be having Suleiman Ribabu from on Skype. He's an election observer who he was on ground in on Ondo State during the election. And we also will have Folayemi Olaiton join us as we get along as well. But let's start with you here. In the build-up to the election, there was tension in such a way that although those who follow Ondo election all the while have said, well, Ondo people are not known to be violent people when it comes to election, but the way it was very divided against itself one way or the other, and then the call for the postponement of election and so on. So how now, as it is, no election violence during the, how would you juxtapose that piece against how the tension built up before the election?
Thank you very much. I think first and foremost, we must blame our political actors who are also in this game. They are the one who will raise the bar. They are the one who can calm their restive supporters down. But be that as it may, you will see that a day to that election, I think Friday preceding the election, there was tension. There was actually violence in the town of Chifolutumi Akeredolu, the governor-elect. But along the line, I think the members of the Nigeria police should be given credit for maintaining peace before, during, and after that election. And the people of Ondo also displayed readiness for good governance. They are ready to change a government that was not performing for the one they believed would deliver on the promises made during the election. So what we're saying is this: well, there was tension, but unfortunately, I moved around virtually at least 2/3 of the states on that day. I was also on ground, and we could see people coming out, trooping out to vote according to their conscience. People who are not harassed, people who are not intimidated in any way. Even the sitting governments members of the party were also on the streets canvassing for vote for their candidates. But unfortunately, the people of Ondo said they preferred an APC person and they have voted him. And I think we must respect that. We must respect them for so many years that we want this person, and which is an inalienable right of theirs, which has been displayed on Saturday. So whoever is aggrieved will go to the court of law to seek redress.
Absolutely. But do you envisage any grievances? Before you even answer that, this outcome, was it really what you expected, or did it throw up any surprises? I mean, looking at somebody like Soloki, who is considered or regarded as a grassroots person, very popular all across Ondo State, didn't have a good showing.
Well, I am not a resident of Ondo State, another an indigent. But the fact remains that surprises like this will come up. You understand? People, you see, Nigerian politicians have not really learnt their lessons because they don't campaign on promise on something like that. They can actualize immediately. They promise things that are not practical. Sometimes they don't even know the number of even party members. They don't even know. So you see what I've learned over the years in election monitoring is that even you will see crowd of Mr. Akeredolu because they promise them money in Mr. B's camp. They'll still go back there, and you feel that such a person has the support base. But unfortunately, because of the pervasive poverty in the land, they will go to because of 1,000 to 2,000 naira, they will get there. So people who assumed that yes, you have crowd, you have the people behind you, but unfortunately, those crowds you see in A party, you see in B party, you see in C party. I'm not over.
So the crowds are no guarantee that
it's not guaranteed that they have votes.
Okay.
Even how many of those in the crowd who actually have the PVC to effect the change? You understand? So most of them will just gather area boys just to show that I have the strength. Gather area boys, gather everybody, gather even non-indigens to come to the town to come and to have a good show on television, in the news. Yes, thousands of people. But on the actual day, do they really have the PVC to effect the change to vote you? Are they residents in that town to also participate in the process? So those are the things. But be that as it may, either a surprise or not, a candidate has emerged.
Okay. Now let's see from this window. There were 3 strong candidates from the 3 senatorial districts, which seemed like a very strong balance, and they were all strong within their own enclave. But if we put Akeredolu, who has now won, what was really different about him? Maybe the message he put forth, or the clout, or something. But what was different about Akeredolu that made him win the election, even when the others were also strong in their own respects?
Of course, we'll allow him, Gbenga, answer that question when we come back from this break. But let's remind our viewers on TVC Entertainment that you can continue to watch the show on TVC Nigeria on Concert Channel 190, DSTV 418.
You can also continue on GoTV channel 45 and ACTV 510. So stay with us and let's get on with this discussion. Thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. We are discussing the outcome of Ondo State governorship election that took place on Saturday. The people of Ondo had come to make their, intentions known by the votes, the way they cast their votes. We have in the studio Gbenga, Soloki. He was on ground during the election. He monitored part of the election in parts of the state. We expecting Suleiman Aribabu to join us. He's an election observer, as well as Folayemi Olaiton. Now, before we went on break, I was asking earlier on, the three candidates were very strong, or are very assumed to be very strong in their different bases. But what message, what was different about Akeredolu that made Ondo people vote him instead?
Well, I think I might not be right if I answer it straight. But the fact remains that we have a party at the center who was elected popularly by the people of Nigeria, and is also the candidate of that party. Definitely, the people of Ondo will also want to play the politics of the center. That is number one. I would think that's one of the reasons. Two, they have implicit and explicit confidence in President Muhammadu Buhari. So that was I think that was another thing. But three, majorly, I think those who are in charge of the campaign knows how to go about it, and they were able to reach out to the people extensively. It is not to say that others didn't do their work very well. Definitely, the people of Ondo will also want to play the politics of the center. That is number one. I would think that's one of the reasons. Two, they have implicit and explicit confidence in President Muhammadu Buhari. So that was I think that was another thing. But three, majorly, I think those who are in charge of the campaign knows how to go about it, and they were able to reach out to the people extensively. It is not to say that others didn't do their work very well. But they did a very fantastic job with what I saw on ground. Though other candidates were also there, but fortunately, somebody will match. Absolutely, in a contest like that, somebody must match. Somebody must outdo each other. But one thing I realized, one thing I saw on that day, that money played a significant role in that election. Because on that very day, there were reports, not only in Akure alone, that people were sharing money. It was not restricted to one party. The three leading parties were sharing money. They were buying votes. That happened, except those who are not ready to tell the truth. It happened. So I think maybe the APC outsmarted the other candidates.
By how much money they spent.
Well, it might not necessarily be the APC that outsmarted in terms of, spending, like a politician said, dollar for dollar, pound for pound. And naira for naira. Well, let's bring in our other guest right now. He's joining us from Akure, the Ondo State capital, via phone, and he's an election observer, or he was, part of the, yes, exactly, the 3,009 or so observers who are on ground in Ondo State. Suleiman Aribabu, good morning, and thanks for joining us on the show.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, what can you tell us about your observations in the course of this election that held November 26th on Saturday?
Thank you very much. Of course, there are a lot to point out from this election, but the most important thing is to say that this shows that Nigerians, when given the opportunity, we are able to comport ourselves properly, do the right thing, make our choices, elect our leaders. The people of Ondo have made us proud. They did that. We were all apprehensive that there will be a recourse to violence, knowing the history of electoral processes in that state. But they proved everybody wrong. They comported themselves very well. The election was peaceful. The atmosphere was carnival-like. Not as carnival-like as we had in Edo, but notwithstanding, people behaved very maturely. Security agencies were on ground, and they also comported themselves very well. Of course, we look forward to that time in our history, in our policy, when we will not need to mobilize security forces for elections like we would do to for counter-insurgency. But nonetheless, Ondo election is a landmark. We all know how the results have turned out. My colleague in the studio there is talking about reports about money exchanging hands. Indeed, we are also inundated with such reports. The truth is that we didn't see any. Of course, we don't expect them to do it so openly. Yeah. We had reports and counter-reports from all sides, especially the three leading political parties. But what is important is that I think that people exercise their franchise freely, and the result is what we have seen.
Now, the election, let's see from the window of INEC, how on ground, when it comes to the conduct of the election, the use of card readers and all of that, how would you say INEC has performed?
The most important thing I would like to say about INEC is that they continue to improve from one election to the other. Of course, we do not expect that we should be at the stage that we are at, but indeed INEC is improving, and Ondo is indeed an improvement on the Edo election. In terms of deploying to polling units, INEC did better than they did in Ondo, because in most places the INEC officials were there as of 8 o'clock, 8:30, and voting had started. So in most parts of the state, voting actually ended earlier. The places where we had some delays were places where you have we had some card reader issues. And when you look at, we had 3,010 polling units, and the incidence of card reader failure is actually mostly insignificant. Of course, we cannot discountenance that if any single voter is citizen is disenfranchised, it is enough a fault on the side of any official of INEC. But what I'm trying to say here is that the number of places where we had this issue of card reader malfunctioning was small. Not only that, INEC responded the moment they were called upon. As a matter of fact, in one of the places in Akure, it was the INEC state resident electoral commissioner himself who came over, to attend to that issue. And in other parts of the state that we went, similar things happened in a few places, and they were promptly responded to. Now, what I would like to say in terms of card reader malfunction or anything that we might step up our game to is that once we are using devices, you will expect there's no 100% efficiency in any machine. You will expect that you have some issues. What's important is what contingency plan you have in place, and now you're able to deploy it effectively so that people are not disenfranchised, so that you nip in the bud any apprehension or any recourse, to violence or self-help. So in terms of the card reader, I think this is an improvement. We urge INEC, to improve further, so that, because sometimes you will not know when some of these things will lead to breakout of scuffles, and from there it might merge the whole process. So in terms of that, I'll give INEC a fairly good mark.
Okay. Gbenga, Soloki, looking at INEC's performance in this election, of course, Sulaiman believes that INEC actually upped its game. Would you say that accreditation and voting at the same time, which was what happened in the case of Edo State, actually helped in checking the tendency to want to rig this election?
Well, I think strengthening democracy should be uppermost in our mind as Nigerians now. And I think that's what I've seen in the leadership of the INEC. It was on that very day, even before, because we monitor the distribution of material, both sensitive and non-sensitive materials. We monitor it was done in a very, very peaceful manner, and it got to the polling units as that went due. So, like, I would support Sulaiman's position that, well, INEC did its best, because from the inconclusiveness of the Kogi and Bayelsa election to the recently held Edo election, you will see that significantly things are actually improved within the hierarchy of INEC, and which also is a plus, and which we have also seen that which are signposted the fact that yes, Nigerians are ready to strengthen this democracy, and they are ready to work for the success of that process. And on Saturday, I want to commend INEC for conducting very peaceful and orderly things.
Yes, but it's one thing. Sorry to cut you off. It's one thing to be able to, do an election in one state out of 36. Are you confident then that come 2019, when you have elections in the larger percentage of the country, that this INEC will be able to deliver?
Well,
I think
from what has happened in Ondo and Edo, I think I want to be confident that INEC will have improved significantly before then, because I know that elections will come before then. I know that in 2018 we have Osun and Ekiti.
Yeah.
You understand? So definitely, I think they are calling for there's a rerun. Sometimes around the corner now in Rivers.
Yeah.
You understand?
December 10th.
December 10th. So definitely, with all these elections coming, what does it take us? It's not a matter of, it's not something that is very big. It's if we are, as a people, if the INEC leadership is ready to make things happen, it will make it happen. What do we need? We need just political will to carry out such programs. What do we need? You need a functional card readers. We want a staff that is well mobilized, well motivated. You need to mobilize, motivate your staff. And you also need, as chairman or as rec, to provide leadership, responsible and responsive leadership. Definitely will go forward. I want to be sure that INEC come 2019, if it goes ahead with the way it does things now, definitely will have credible election, even on a larger scale.
Okay, let's bring in Suleiman in here. Now, Suleiman, you were on ground even before the election. When it comes to voter education that the political parties are supposed to conduct, how well have the political parties themselves enlightened their followers as to what should be expected and how they should go about things?
Thank you very much. And this is the question I've anticipated, and I'd like to link it with the question that Soloki just responded to. If Nigeria is going to succeed in 2019 general election, a lot has to do with the politicians, a lot has to do with civil society, a lot has to do with the citizenry. INEC can only do the best they can. It is we as citizens, as a country, that will determine what exactly it is that we want. And I think we should put pressure on the system such that by 2019 we will also up the ante again. We will need to improve in the laws, in our electoral laws. That's very, very critical. I am the Southwest Coordinator for Transition Monitoring Group. We deployed over 200 observers in Ondo State. We were there to train them earlier. We were there to interact with the electorate. And unfortunately, political parties are almost inactive up until electoral season. Voter education is poor, and that is why you will see that in Ondo, the last election they had in 2012, they had about 30,000 plus voided votes. And now, this is 2016, 4 years later, we still have about 29,000 plus voided votes. And when you look at the reasons why these votes are voided, it shows that we are not doing enough in terms of voter education. And the things political parties fail to realize is that they also lose votes if they do not do appropriate voter education. And one of the ways any serious political party can endear itself to the citizen and make themselves relevant is by engaging citizens throughout the 4-year cycle, such that you are helping them with voter education, you are helping them to come to be abreast of important issues in the policy. That way they will not forget who has been there for them. They will not forget what you have been saying to them. But unfortunately, voter education is poor, and it's not only for the political party, but they have the primary responsibility. INEC also has responsibility, so do we as civil society.
All right, Suleiman.
Yeah,
Suleiman, we'll come back to you shortly. Let's go on a break, and then we'll come to dwell on this. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.
Welcome back. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we are looking at the Ondo election that has come and gone. A governor-elect has emerged in the person of Rotimi Akeredolu. Well, our guest in the studio, Gbenga Soloki, is a public affairs analyst. He was also on the ground in Ondo State. And we have Sulaiman Arigbabu, an election observer, speaking to us via phone. Let's, just as we went on that break, you were talking about voter education, and you actually said totally zero. And it reflects the fact that politics or democracy as it is played in Nigeria is still not about the people. It's still about the political gladiators. How do we come out of this culture of politics just for grabbing power and actually for, going to what it's meant for, to serve the people?
Well, I think basically, the people like elections will play a significant role in this process. Like I said, the politics of Nigeria is about power grabbing, power capturing. It's not about you and I, because if it's about you and I, definitely political parties will dwell more on political education. I was in Ondo for a week. There was no day that a party A or party B had a program for it. Even it will be those who will be their agents. So tell them that if this issue arises like this will be the reaction. So it's about how to grab power. And this zero-sum game that our politics is known for will not help us. We want so many parts of our electoral act will have to be changed. Even attitudinal is also there. Our politicians will change their attitude towards power. It's not about just for myself alone. It's for the people. If you are a governor, you are elected, you are given a trust by the people of that state. So you must work for their interests. Those you see as co-contestants will also be brought on board if they have laudable ideas for you to move the state forward. So I think, except we all sit down, except the people themselves, which I think the people have started now, to say, okay, this is the person we want, and we must have it. And if he doesn't perform by by the end of his tenure, we'll have a right to also. That too, we must the process of recall. Even it's very difficult. It's cumbersome. It's monetized
for legislators.
It's for the legislators. You understand? We must also have a process to also to talk about our those in the executive arm of government. Yes. Because they know that whether I do well or not, it's about 4 years.
4 years.
Because most of the houses of assembly are in their pockets. So you will see what happened in those houses of assembly now. You will see mass defection. Next month.
You took it right out of my mouth, because I was going to ask whether you envisage any return to the APC. Now that the elections have come and gone.
Normal. It's normal. It's for me to say, for our politicians to say, yes, Baba, I'm with you. By December, January, before the swearing in, you will see mass defection. First at the House of Assembly, to assure that, well, things will move on smoothly. There will be cordial relationship between us. And what is cordiality there? It's about money sharing. That, Baba, we are with you, we'll sort ourselves out. Then the House of Rep caucus will also, some of them will also move out. Even before the expiration of Governor Miko's tenure, some of his loyalists are already moving out of his party, which has shown, because I was in 2012. Okay. It was Iroko against the rest of the world, and he won. This year, just 4 years, what really happened? People rejected his candidate, even in Akure, where that candidate hails from. It is one thing. It's a lesson that when you are in power, use it responsibly and responsively. Because today you might have today, tomorrow you might not be opportune to be in the saddle. That's what's happened in Ondo today.
All right, now that brings us to the issue of the incumbent factor. The current governor Olusegun Mimiko, was looking forward to a successor, one way or the other, and people, the powers of incumbency in Nigeria has been very, very profound. Even though we've seen that the last 2015 election, there was a paradigm shift when it comes to that. Now, what really worked against the abilities or the incumbency factor in Ondo State?
Well, I think well, like I've mentioned earlier, one is that the present government of Governor Olusegun Mimiko actually lost focus immediately after the second term. So I am always an advocate for a single term. If I have my way, I'm an advocate of one term for each person. Most of our governors don't do anything in their second terms. You understand? That was one of the reasons 2, his candidate, his parties, the internal crisis ravaging his party actually led to, was also a reason for that, because the internal executive was allowed to contest, had his name on the INEC list, I think on Friday or Thursday. Yes. Thursday. You understand? So the man, instead of campaigning, was in court trying to validate his candidacy.
Of course, that was why
unfortunately, they were not campaigning. That's why I said that is where voters' education lagged, was missing. What they ought to have done was, as they were pursuing the case, the party members should also be on the field canvassing for votes. But they were
all distracted.
They were distracted. They were more concerned about the court matters. You understand? Instead of campaigning, they were already focusing on the court to have his candidacy validated. But now, as his candidacy,
that was like walking straight into the trap that was set
yes, that was. But if they
I wonder if Sulaiman Arigbabu is still there. Sulaiman, there's been talk about the lack of ideology that has pervaded our politics, democracy so far. Would you say that is still the case, looking at the Ondo election? And going forward, what would be your recommendations to move away from non-ideology based politics to politics that is really about ideologies, clear-cut ideologies, and you know what the person stands for? Should there even be laws to guide this?
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of the Ondo elections, I mean, nothing really has changed in terms of how people choose. We still use a lot of sentiments, and of course, there is not ideologically based. But then when we do talk about party ideologies, I'm wondering what is the real ideological difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party in the United States. What is important for them is still America first. Yes, you might say that they have some differences in terms of their international relations or what have you, in terms of how they decide on business issues. So what I'm saying is that the world is really not tending so much towards ideological differences. What the world is asking for is good governance, and we know the elements of good governance. Is that you are accountable for the people, is that you use the people's resources judiciously to their benefit, is that people have a say, they are included in the decisions that matters to them. Is that you are prudent, is that you are innovative, you are hardworking. These are elements, transparency. These are the things that really matters, and these are the things we should build into our culture, so that no matter who becomes the governor of any state or the president of the country or the chairman of a local government, if these things are ingrained in citizens and they know it as a right, that if you do not deliver on these basic values, we will challenge your authority. Politicians will sit up, because truly it's going to take a while, looking at all, except for maybe one or two political parties that really do not have much of political weight, that have ideological leaning. All the rest, they are parties created out of either internal strife between certain political parties or just new affiliations and attempt to grab power. So there's really no difference between the APC, the PDP, the AD, and the rest of them in that Ondo election. Even at the national level, you can really not say there is much, because if you say the APC, for instance, is different, who are the people who populate the APC? 60% of them are disgruntled elements from PDP. So we do not have any much of ideology. But what can make the difference? It's part of what President Buhari, for instance, is standing for, that I, as a leader, I will show leadership. I will be accountable to the people. I will make sure that what the people want matters is prioritized. These are the kind of values that we need to ingrain in our politics. If this is what subsists, then issues of corruption, because when you take away corruption, when you take away ineptitude, when you take away lawlessness, when you take away disregard for the rule of law out of our governance, Nigeria will be a paradise, because Nigerians are not asking for much. They're just asking for the basics. And these basics, when you look at it, giving us power, giving us light, giving us opportunity to, create our own wealth, access to opportunity to be able to earn, to buy food, take care of ourselves and enjoy the little things of life. These are things that, if our resources is judiciously, Nigeria has no business being where we are.
All right, Suleiman,
maybe
let
like
me...
Americans would say the pursuit of happiness.
Exactly. Now, let me ask you this. You were on ground to monitor the election, and you have some observations that you have penciled down, whether from the political parties, from the voters themselves, or the INEC, as the case may be. All the data you have collected. How does it help, or what do you do with the data? Let me ask, what do you do with the data collected from observing the election?
Oh, thank you very much. The Transition Monitoring Group already issued yesterday, immediately after INEC released the official result, we issued our interim report of the process, and we highlighted quite a number of issues. We looked at where INEC improved on its processes in terms of deploying to the electoral unit and the voting unit, in terms of trying to replace malfunctioning card readers and all of that. But we also noted that there are quite a number of issues. One is voter education. Another major issue we noted is the fact that the security officials that were deployed to the state, even though they comported themselves very well and they must be commended, but we are concerned that their welfare is not properly taken care of, and this could predispose them to, being compromised. There are other issues that need to be attended to. For instance, the political space gets easily heated up because we have not substantially opened it up. And this is where the Uwe's panel report becomes very instructive. Unfortunately, Mr. President has set up another, the Kenny Amani-led Electoral Reform Committee. We need to open up the political space for that. We need to, this winner-takes-all syndrome in politics is why you see a lot of aggression, a lot of violence, a lot of,
All right, Suleiman.
We'll have to, Suleiman, we'll have to take a quick break. Let's just put you on hold there. When we come back, of course, we'll wrap things up here. As far as this particular segment is concerned, stay with us.
And don't forget that top of the hour will be time for the news update, and Ndiamugo will be taking us there that time.
Yeah. Okay, welcome back. It's still TVC Breakfast, looking at the Ondo elections. Well, yes, a governor-elect has emerged. How much do we really know about Rotimi Akeredolu? It's a question I'd want our guests to answer right after we come back, from the news update. Senior advocate of Nigeria, he's been president of the Nigerian Bar Association. But what else do we really know about?
He has contested the governorship
before,
yes,
absolutely.
So,
what will he be bringing to the table? Yes, he's promised the people he will not let them down. That is to say that, of course, he's looking at this as a people's thing. He has said that much, but in real terms, when he does become governor,
when he's sworn in, some analysts were saying that this period of time, for all those who are being elected into office in Nigeria right now, at the level of the local government or at the level of the state, they're going to find some level of challenge, because when you have states still grappling with funds to pay salaries sometimes and all of that, except for maybe Lagos State, that is very peculiar, that is different, where it doesn't really necessarily rely on the center for allocation. Now, all the governors are going to have to think outside the box to start looking for how to source for funds to be able to keep up with their plan.
Governor,
when he is sworn in, some analysts were saying that this period of time, for all those who are being elected into office in Nigeria right now, at the level of the local government or at the level of the state, they're going to find some level of challenge, because when you have states still grappling with funds to pay salaries sometimes and all of that, except for maybe Lagos State, that is very peculiar, that is different, where it doesn't really necessarily rely on the center for allocation. Now, all the governors are going to have to think outside the box to start looking for how to source for funds to be able to keep up with their plans and all the programs and all the promises they made the people.
And what might say that Rotimi Akeredolu has his job cut out for him? Ondo State is a resource.
Oh my God! Someone
state,
we had
an oil-bearing state, not oil-producing. There's a difference between oil-producing and oil-bearing.
We'll come back to all of this.
Okay, Zedo. Welcome back. Yes, we are looking at Ondo governorship election. It has come and gone successfully, and I guess everyone is grateful about that. But we've been looking at the issues, the things that played out for or against those who lost, and of course the winner of
the one who won.
Yes, and the one who won, Rotimi Akeredolu. Well, Gbenga Soloki is a public affairs analyst, and Sulaiman Arigbabu is also on the phone to us speaking on this. What do we know about Rotimi Akeredolu? We're discussing about what he would be bringing to the table and the peculiarities of Ondo State, a state that has everything it takes to be the best.
Like I mentioned earlier, at least he was president of the Nigerian Bar Association at the point in time, a successful lawyer for that matter. But does that really actually translate into good governance? Does that put him on the foot of an average indigene? That's a concern. He might have good heart, he might have good intentions, but the political ox surrounding him in the states, well, we may not, except he is determined to move forward. He is determined to actually lay food on the table of average people in the state, also to excel in office. But I think with God by his side, according to those who believe in that such, definitely he would succeed. But it must be one of the ox lurking around the corner. Most of them didn't work for his emergence, but today they will use one link or the other to also get to him to say, and like I said, there will be mass defection now. But he must remain focused. Like I mentioned, the case of Governor Mimiko. In 2012, it was darling of Odo people. It was darling among all the contestants. He emerged victorious. You understand? Today, his candidate was rejected, even in Akure, where he hailed from. So
Akeredolu has to watch it.
He has to watch his back because he has been given the mandate for 4 years. He will have to come back to them to renew that mandate, and he must, in his heart, determine to also have a program that will impact positively. Because Ondo State is aside Lagos in the southwest, it's only state, if properly managed, if we have a responsible and responsive leadership that can stand on its own with the derivation it gets, definitely it can also stand on its own. We have purposeful leadership in Lagos, from the area of Ashwa Tinubu to Fawatu Fashola and now to Governor Akinwumi Ambode. You could see the continuity and you could see that Lagos been given facelift. Lagos is not the Lagos of 1999, pre-Tinubu era. So you will see that continuity and good governance. And people are ready to vote for good governance, for good persons.
So will Akeredolu be building on a foundation that's already laid, or he'll have to build a foundation by himself as he takes over? We'll come to that. Well, the governorship.
Let's get the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Itayo Jegede. He has said he's still studying the outcome of the election.
And he says he would consult with those that matter to know the next line of action. Jegede, who thanked the people for their show of love and steadfastness, said his request for the postponement of the election was denied by INEC for reasons that he's yet to understand.
I should thank our people, the electorate in Ondo State, for standing by us, for their show of love and for their steadfastness. We are studying the situation, and in the fullness of time, you will know what the position of the party and my position is. We had 48 hours to prepare for this election. I was cleared by the court on Wednesday. I had only Thursday to campaign. On Saturday, I had to go for election. Our request for postponement was denied by INEC for reasons that we are yet to find.
The party will meet possibly tomorrow. It's a very big party. All stakeholders will meet. The caucus will also meet, and the inner caucus will also meet. Then our decision will be made public. Like the flag has said, we thank you, we appreciate you all. I believe and I thank God for the litigation processing.
All right, when you talk about the caucus and the inner caucus.
Maybe there's
and
an
the inner caucus. Yeah, so you see there are layers in there, and sometimes, putting it very bare, this is the reason why sometimes some people feel left out. Because when
you're too big for your own good.
When you're talking about decision making, and then the actual power belongs to the people out there who are the outer caucus, as the case may be, and then the few persons are making that decision. But anyway, that's the party structure in there.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Suleiman Aribabu there in Ondo State. Now, moving on from here, the election has been contested and won, and those who have lost. But the spirit of statesmanship or sportsmanship, where you win, congratulations. We are not seeing this in Ondo State yet, but we have seen it in Nigeria, though. About how do you assess that spirit when it comes to how free and fair the election was credited at being?
Thank you. I think that the most unfortunate thing about Nigeria's democracy is our embrace of the American presidential system, which is really saddled with a lot of acrimony and bitterness. You will realize that you don't find this, for instance, in countries like Britain and Germany, but you saw what happened in America, even though we are proud of Hillary Clinton. And I'm sorry to be digressing, but I'm drawing a parallel here. I'm sure that if the result in America had been the other way around, you would have seen this kind of same element in an American citizen in the person of Donald Trump, who had said I wasn't going to accept the result. So I think that our politicians are just being typical. But in all fairness to Mr. Jegede here, he has not rejected the result. What he has just not done is probably not congratulated the winner. And in Nigeria, we really don't believe that we lost because we lost. We usually believe that we lost because other people didn't do something or did something against us. And I must say that part of the reasons why this result, perhaps we all knew that this was going to be tight between three major contenders. But nobody knew that there would be such a margin. And I think that why you have this kind of margin, especially in Ondo Central, is because the Jegede camp did not take advantage of their successes at the court. Rather than riding on that and mobilizing their people, they were calling for a postponement, which is unfortunate. Of course, they have a right, to act such, but then we cannot keep pulling it. It costs a lot. The Ondo election costs us more than necessary. So if we had also called off this election and postponed it, it will cost waste of money.
Absolutely. Well, Sulaiman, we don't have time. Let's just put in this last question before we round off here. Gbenga, Soloki, is Nigeria decidedly a two-party democracy?
A two-party? Well, I think basically there's no difference between the two parties, the two leading parties. There's no difference between the PDP and the APC. When you look at those who populated, who are in the APC, they are disgruntled elements, like he has put it, in the same thing vis-a-vis the other party. Today, the political class will also unite when it comes to power sharing. But like my position on your soul is that they are not concerned about our welfare, my welfare, yours. You understand? But you see, the two parties also lack ideology. It's not about yes. When you look at the Second Republic, you will see ideologically based parties, and you will see them doing such, carrying out such projects. They promise the people, but today, to pay salary, people celebrate it. The government is paying salary. Doing what constitutionally you are supposed to do, people are praising you. But maybe that as is made, Nigeria is truly a one-party state because the political gladiators are the same thing. Like we read in the dailies, Chief Tony Anene says he's going to retire at 82 years.
82.
He's been in the saddle for about 40 years. So if you don't retire at 82 years, when do you want to retire?
Well, he says he has no more ambition.
Ambition at 82. What does he want to become? So you see, it's about selfish interests of our political leaders. Right. Our political leaders should learn that the people first. Yeah. And I think I want to commend people of Ondo for coming out to say, yes, we want this person. Okay. And I think I want to recommend to Nigerians that they must not be shied away from saying that, from showing their disenchantment with the government that as
They are not.
responsible
Please,
has not been
Okay.
responsible.
Gbenga, thank you, Gbenga Soloki, thank you for joining us right now on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you so much.
And we thank you, Suleiman Aribabu, for joining us from Akure on phone. We'll go on a break and we'll come back to dwell on another topic discussing aviation next. Stay with us.